Happy Juneteenth. To celebrate, we're going to be talking about why that third Spider-Verse movie is never coming out. Just to clarify, I know that this is coming out after Juneteenth, but keep in mind, I wrote the script before, and there were some problems with the editing and audio. Just keep that in mind as we go through. But before we do that, hi, I'm Hoffy Cooker, and this is my channel where I talk about movies, controversies, stuff with like editing, box office stuff, and every now and then I do something special. If that sounds interesting to you, I post every Tuesday and Friday, and I also take requests. So if that's interesting, feel free to subscribe and come back Friday. All right, let's get back in. Before we get back into the third movie, let's talk about the first two and why they were so awesome. The first movie came out in 2018. Critics gave it a 97% and audiences gave it a 93. The first Spider-Verse stood out back in 2018. This story was about a boy named Miles Morales learning how to be Spider-Man under a lot of pressure. It's a coming-of-age story, and in 2018, there were a lot of animated movies, mostly sequels. And there wasn't a lot of Marvel. There was only Black Panther and Infinity War, but those don't count anyway. Not only was Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse a great story, but it also started a new trend called the comic book animation. Now I get that this style is overdone today, being used by TMNT, Puss in Boots, K-pop Demon Hunters, etc., but it's a great style. In short, this movie gave us a new animation style and a great story and lovable characters that we could follow along with. But what makes Across the Spider-Verse special? Is it the lovable characters, the world-ending stakes? Probably, but it's also a really relatable story. Audiences and critics both gave it a 95%, so clearly these movies are good. But what do I mean when I say that these stories are relatable? Well, they can be relatable in a few different ways. Not only is it a coming of age story, and I'm assuming that most of the audience is around Miles's age so they can relate to him, but throughout the story, Miles is trying to figure out a way to tell his parents that he's Spider-Man, and he just can't quite figure it out. This reminds me of maybe like gay people coming out to their parents as gay, or trans, or any LGBTQ person coming out to their family and their loved ones, because that can be hard for some people because your entire life they might be against it, but once you get it out, it's good, you know? But even if you're not part of the LGBTQ community, you could also be telling your parents you don't want to support the religion that they're in, or you don't want to play a certain sport that they want you to play, or you can fill in the blanks yourself with like anything you've been through in your life. But there's something to these stories that audiences just love. With that out of the way, now you can hopefully understand why people wanted these movies out like yesterday. And originally, they were supposed to come out like yesterday. Shortly after the release of the first one, Sony announced that March 29th, 2024, the third movie would come out. But as we know, it didn't come out, and it still hasn't come out. And the reason for this first delay was the July 2023 writer's strike. And it's kind of hard to animate when you don't know what you're supposed to be animating about. But after the strike ended, the animators still couldn't animate anything because the writers couldn't decide on a final script. The script kept getting revised and redone over and over and over again. Then in late 2024, we got confirmation that the script was finally done. But online, there was some speculation that the writers were just messing around and not taking the movie seriously because the movie kept on getting pushed back later and later. Originally, it was supposed to come out in 2024 and then 2025 and then late 2025. And then sadly, late 2025 came and went and still no movie. But now we have some kind of good news. The movie got pushed back to 2027, and to be specific, June 18th, 2027. The reason I say that that's kind of good news is because it's still good that we have an official date. It's just kind of upsetting because this movie could have came out almost 3 years ago after the actual release date. Sony animators claim that it's because of animation malfunctions and just some unseen problems, but now people are convinced that they're pushing it back for more projects like K-pop Demon Hunters because now they have two other sequels coming out and just other things that they're not too worried about Spider-Verse right now. But fans have other reasons they think the movie's been delayed. And it's probably the exact reason you've been screaming into your computer screen or your phone this entire video. I'm talking about the Shem Shemek Shemek the voice actor of Miles, damn it. I'm talking about his controversy. For those of you who don't know the controversy, Shamrock Shake had a one-sided flirtationship with his co-star, Haley Steinfeld, the voice actress of Gwen. If you haven't heard, there's a joke going around on the internet that says every single Spider-Man actor gets with his co-star actress. Tobey Maguire, Tom Holland, Andrew Garfield, they all got with their co-stars. Granted, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield got with their co-stars and then broke up. But Tom Holland is about to marry his. So the internet was saying things like, oh, is Shamwell going to get with Haley? Oh, are they going to get together? Oh, are they going to get married? Stuff like that, right? And everyone was expecting him to make a move with her. And make a move he did. Or at least tried to, before he got shut down. When the two went onto a talk show together, Shameik said that it's easy to play Miles flirting with Gwen when he's looking at Haley. But she did not reciprocate that at all, and she shut him down on live television. Then Miss Haley announced that she's going to be married on Twitter. And 5 minutes later, Shazam posted on Twitter, and I quote, "There's still more people to meet, more opportunities to come, and more chances to try, live, learn, apply." Now he claimed that this was coincidental, but who's really believing that, bro? I personally don't buy it for a second. But then, unexpectedly, Shamu posted pics and videos of himself with Miss Laura Harrier. She played Liz, aka Peter's crush, in Spider-Man Homecoming. This seemed like a big for Shimone. The internet was making jokes that since he couldn't bag his own Gwen, he went to a different Spider-Man universe and got the other love interest. Things were finally looking up. Still, Laura posted and said that she's married and doesn't even talk to this man. And the only reason that those pictures and videos exist is because they were at a party together and someone thought that it would be fun if they posed and took pictures together. He said that they aren't even friends. And holy shit, I would just delete myself from life if that ever happened to me because of how embarrassing that would be. And the entire internet is trolling him. If you go onto his TikTok or Instagram or anything and you look into the comments, most of them are like, get into the studio because I want my movie or something like that, something along those lines. But people are blaming him for the reason that the movie isn't out yet, and there's no evidence that he's the reason that the movie's not out yet. But there's also not evidence he's not the reason. I think that's what that is. I think. But with that in mind, we're now fully educated on the entire controversy lore of the Spider-Verse movies. With all that said, I've been your host, Hoffy Cooker, and you've been great. Now I want to give you guys homework. Your homework is to go into the comments and predict whether GTA 6 is going to come out first or Spider-Verse. I'm leaning towards GTA 6, but who knows? But until next time, love you lot, bye. And in conclusion, mwah.